Alright, welcome back to the Ales and Fails Twitch stream. I'm your host, Alewolf, otherwise known as Ales, Gentleman Streamer, Beer Goggles 21, the No Throne Cicerone. And welcome back to the stream, folks. It's a new week, it's a new time to get started on our round of streams. As you might have noticed, I did change the schedule just a bit. I won't be streaming late tomorrow night. I've got, unfortunately, another affair on my hands, and so I'll be moving that block to Friday night. Hopefully that's not too much trouble if you're interested in watching me play some Hades. But enough about what's coming into the future. How is everyone doing? It's what is it? The second week of July, as some might call it, the Eads of July, and yeah, you kind of just start feeling that heat coming from the summer weather, especially now that we are under the effects of global warming. But there's nothing that can cool us better than a nice glass of delicious ale, and that is why you're here to talk about beer, think about drinking beer, perhaps join me in a round or two, and watch me play some Radical Dreamers. So Radical Dreamers, as some of you might know, is a game that was released originally for the Super Nintendo counterpart in Japan, the Super Famicom. It was actually through this internet service. I forget exactly, Bantella Satellaview. I think that's what it was called. And it was a sequel to Chrono Trigger. It is largely a text adventure, and part of the reason why that is the case is because back then transmitting information through the internet was not very effective. You couldn't upload your Gods of Wars or what might have you, and so the game is actually quite simple in the sense that it is a lot of still images. There's some movement. It's very heavily pixelated, and most of the action takes place through text. So it is probably one of the most text-heavy games I've ever played, and I've played a few quite text-heavy games. And actually, that's the reason why I decided to put the question of the night: do you enjoy reading for pleasure? And it's because I do. I don't get a chance to read too many books, but I do read articles that catch my fancy, and I do enjoy text adventures. So this might not be the only text adventure that we end up playing here at the Ales and Fails Twitch stream. But yeah, this one is quite heavy. One of the things that I found to be most effective here is just the fact that rather than read every single little piece of dialogue, since a lot of it is repetitive, we're going through a hallway of a manor, I try to focus mostly in the important scenes. So that might be a bit more tolerable. Your mileage may vary, as they say. But before we make it so that my vocal cords are crushed under the pressure of tomes of text, let's go ahead and talk about what's on tap tonight. This is from our friends at New Glory Craft Brewery, and this is Boozeberry. It is a blueberry wheat ale, and it's kind of got a fun can. It's got like one of these like circus-like cans. It's got its blues and purples. Imagine that blues and purples. It just needs a pink, and it would be completely my style. So, what exactly is a wheat ale? You might be asking. You pull me on the side of the road, and you're like, ales. I thought that beer was made of barley. What is this wheat ale? And why don't you dig me out of this hole of ignorance? I don't think you can dig somebody out of a hole. But yeah, beer is made from all sorts of types of grains. It's mainly barley, but then you can make beer out of rye. You can certainly make beer out of rice. And some delicious kolsch are made from rice. And then you can also make them out of wheat. And this is actually a style heavily favored both in Germany and Belgium. And if you've been to the Ales and Fails Twitch stream, you'll know that both of those countries had incredible historical great beer traditions. Wheat beers in Germany are known as Hefeweizens, and they largely taste a little bit like cloves and bananas. Very banana bready type of flavor. In Belgium, however, The taste is a little bit more citrusy. They've got some orange notes there. Sometimes they spice them with coriander, and so it adds a little more of a citrus edge. And of course, this particular beer is neither of those. It's neither Belgian nor German. It is American. And of course, as we like to do in America, we like to experiment with things. And one of the things that's most common really is to add berries or different fruits into wheat ales. I think this was more in vogue before hazy IPAs became the place to throw fruits in. So this is kind of like an old modern style, I want to say. I don't know that I've ever tasted a wheat ale that has had some sort of fruit that I've said that is delicious, but they're always refreshing. I'm willing to try anything once. But that's what I have to say on the matter. Let's see what Untapped has to say instead. And let me go ahead and shift to my alternate screen over here. Okay, so Boozeberry. Somebody, I guess, thought, hey, there's a what's it called? Booberry. Why not make a Boozeberry, right? So again, from our friends, our New Glory Craft Brewery, this has got a healthy 4.8% alcohol by volume. This super fresh poppin' blueberry wheat ale is a gem. It's easy drinking and well balanced. We use the perfect amount of blueberry puree and natural blueberry flavors for a bright and fruity experience. Pairs best with sunny skies. Well, you know what? That's a very positive description there. I like that it's poppin'. I like that it suggests that you need to drink it with sunny skies. Unfortunately, no such thing exists here at the Ales and Fails Twist Room. We only roam in the night, so we're gonna have to make do with the lighting that we have. Let's go back to my standard alternate screen over here. Okay, so actually, let me go ahead and grab this and let's test it for ourselves. And I've got my trusty Belgian glass over here. I can already see that this particular ale has a slight tinge of lilac, which is suggestive that it probably does have a strong amount of blueberries in tow. And I can already sense it. It's kind of like a sourish blueberry aroma there. Quite fetching. Fang and ale reviewer. So as what you would expect from a wheat ale, a thick body. Wheat ales are generally unfiltered, and so they've got I would say, body composition of about 3.5 out of 5. 5 being a heavy-bodied beer. They don't have too much hop character, which is something that I'm noticing here. Not a lot of bitterness in this particular beer. It certainly grazes the tongue. It's got maybe a slight fiery, scrapey demeanor to it. A little bit juicy, I want to say. It very strongly tastes of blueberries, which is quite nice. Whenever I'm drinking a beer and it touts a particular fruit, you can go about balancing your flavors as much as you want to make the perfect concoction. But I am a simple man. I want to taste the fruit, and this is actually committing to that promise. Now, in terms of whether or not I like the fact that it has blueberries, I think I would prefer a straight up wheat ale. This is delicious though. If I really was in the mood for a wheat ale that had the blueberries, this is actually quite nice. Probably one of the best fruit wheat ales that I've had before. One of the best fruit wheat ales that I've had thus far. So Boozeberry, if you're in the mood for a delicious wheat ale, an American wheat ale that is, I suggest you give it a poke. Let me go ahead and rate this. 2.5 of course is our average. What I want to do is maybe give it a solid 3.25. And wow, unlock 3 badges, look at that. New Brew Thursday. You know, I've unlocked so many of these at this point, it's like giving me pogs. But okay, let me go ahead and update my ticker. In case anybody's wondering, what is that old wolf drinking? And I believe there it goes. And let's get back into the game, shall we? As my friend Travis Touchdown would say, it's game time. Okay, so let me turn on the desktop audio here. So radical dreamers, or as I like to call it, radical streamers. So at this point, what we are doing is trying to get every single alternate ending to this game. Those of you that have played the Chrono Trigger or Chrono Cross games know that these games come with different endings depending on what you do, and a lot of them are like alternate reality fantasies. And sometimes they add a bit of background or a little bit more context to some of the characters. They're kind of delightful. So far for this game, I've noticed that there's a lot of just a lot of the endings are just made for fun. I don't know that they necessarily add in terms of character, but you know what? I can still be swayed otherwise. I'm also following a walkthrough. So because I just kind of want to make this as efficient as possible. It was only the first ending that I did by myself, so I think let's simply get started. And if anyone is familiar with the Radical Dreamers endings, this one is specifically let's see, I think it was Paradeus, the mystery mega weapon, which is why I decided to call this particular stream Space Medafighter X. Yeah, I don't know. It just called to me. We all love Space Medafighter X. And we were on the way to the dungeon. We just finished speaking with the captain of the guards, who was a goblin. And so let's proceed. The way to the right ended at a staircase going up. The corridor also continued directly ahead, but the way was completely enshrouded in darkness. And so let me pull up my map here actually. So I also have a map of the manor for just to assist me with this particular endeavor. If I'm thinking correctly, we just left the kitchen. Sorry, we just left the guard room. We could go to the kitchen, but what we actually need to do is go all the way to the dungeon. So I think we need to go to the stairs going up. The passage soon ended at the foot of some stairs. With Kit taking the lead, we started to climb the narrow staircase. When we reached the top, we found ourselves at the end of a long, straight corridor. We continued on. And just a second here, folks. Let me adjust this camera just a bit. Does that make sense? I think I like this a bit more. You know what? It's not really that big of a deal. Okay. We followed the corridor, eventually reaching a fork in the path. The path to the left would take us back to the atrium with the fountain. Going straight would take us to the old, sturdy door. So we need to keep going forward in order to hit that dungeon. We continued down the corridor, eventually reaching an old, rather sturdy looking door. Right. The key we got from that creepy old goblin should do the trick. Kit slipped the key into the lock. The heavy door groaned slightly as it slowly swung open. And there it goes. Clammy air rose up around our feet, as if crawling blindly through the darkness. This didn't seem like the kind of place anyone in their right mind would visit voluntarily. We pushed the heavy iron door the rest of the way open and stepped into the darkness. There was a row of cells, all locked behind iron bars. 1, 2. Oh, Gulliver, Melgid, Zoranda, forgive me, please, please forgive me. We heard a voice from the third cell, whimpering and crying pathetically. I'll also warn you that I'm not attempting to do voice acting because voice acting demands talent. What I'm trying to do is lean into what I assume the characters sound like and doing my best impression of that. Gotta keep that throat moist. And it's a prisoner. I strained my eyes to look inside. Faintly, in the darkness, I could see something that looked like a man sitting on the floor. So this was the source of the voice. Oi, you alright, mate? Kid called out to the figure. Forgive me, it's all my fault. It's all my fault. The dragoons never deserved this. General, Lady Riddell, oh, forgive me. I beg of you. The old man didn't seem to respond to us at all. He only sat facing the wall, begging for forgiveness for who knew what. This guy seems like he's been here for a while. Kind of reminds me a little bit of what's his name? The guy that helped the Count of Monte Cristo when he was in his cell. He was like a holy man. I forget. Hello, can you hear me? Asked Kid, trying again. There'll be no getting through to him. His real self will have long since retreated inside the shell he has created, said Magill, cutting her off. Shell? What do you mean? I asked. He has built a shell around the core of his psyche in order to shield himself from the truth. He is running from something terrible. He has seen something, or been through something, or has done something. And so he has created his own world on the inside as a final refuge from outside world lost to him forevermore. I looked at Magill in surprise. I had detected a hint of unspoken sadness in his words. And for some reason, he was looking at Kid, watching over her as she stared at the man in the cell. Seeming to notice my gaze, Magill turned back to face me, assuming his usual emotionless expression once more. We live in a world of sorrow and foolishness. It's only inevitable that some would try to escape it. But despite his hard words, his eyes retained a certain softness, his steely gaze giving way to a gentle light. Do you understand? I think so. I gave a slightly evasive answer. You seem confused. I don't blame you. You'll come to understand eventually. Magill looked at me and Kid. What was that all about? I wondered. We're not gonna get much out of him. He's miles away. Let's just leave him be and try someplace else. Just a second here, folks. Okay. Kid made for the door of the dungeon. Wait, called Magill. We must find some way to get this man to speak. What for? I mean, he's speaking already. Just none of it makes sense. What are you after? Some things he said piqued my curiosity. He mentioned the dragoons, and Riddell too. So, you said the dragoons are ancient history, snapped Kid. Besides, how can we trust anything he says? He's clearly gone off his rocker. She had a point. The old man had long since cut his ties to the real world. What did Maggle expect him to say? Excuse me. Without missing a beat, Maggle replied, "We simply have to bring him back to reality." "And how are we gonna do that? You want me to do a little dance for him or something? See if that gets his motor going?" I don't think he means that. No, please don't do that. The words were out of my mouth before I could stop them. "What are you saying?" Her eyes narrowed threateningly. I think this was one of those conversations where damned if you do and damned if you don't. "You don't think anyone want to see me dance, is that it?" "Well, no. Completely the opposite, as in... Actually, ignore me, huh?" "Nah, this should be good. Enlighten me, why don't ya?" He's right, it won't work. And just like that, Kit's fist was flying towards Maggle's face instead of mine. Wonderful. He dodged the blow with ease and carried on as if nothing had happened. We must break through the shell he has created and drag him back to the real world. And in order to do that, we will need some kind of key. Something that will reach him even though the barrier he has erected. "Yeah, and where are we gonna find this key?" asked Kid suspiciously. "I don't know," came Maggle's simple reply. "But there is someone in this manor who can tell us." "You don't mean you're not talking about Riddell, are you?" "I am," Maggle replied with a nod. "Alright, fine. Don't know what the heck you expect her to tell us, though." Kit turned on her heel and made for the door. We left the gibbering old man in the dungeon, alone with his sorrow. I followed Kit and Maggle back out onto the corridor. Okay, and we're back in the corridor. Like I said, I'm trying to save my voice for whenever we go into rooms. This gets pretty text heavy. Like I said, this particular ending, other than the first few, I want to say the first hour, it doesn't deviate too much from the original ending. So I guess if you've never seen the true path of Radical Dreamers, you're in for a treat if you stay. Imagine if, like, old TV you were watching and the people that were watching were like, "Oh, can you please stay watch?" That's my kind of TV. Alright, so we move from the dungeon and I think we need to look at into Riddell's room, which is going to take us quite a bit. In order to get there, so we're in the Manor's dungeon right over here. We have to go back to the atrium. And you know what, before we move too much, I probably want to save. Like I said, one of the things that happens here in Radical Dreamers is as you're going through the hallway, you'll get randomly ambushed. It's its way of having random battles. And I really don't like this room. You know, it's kind of funny how just the simplicity of the graphics here, just how still they are, still proves to be rather unsettling. And of course, it's also just it just owes to the artwork that Square was putting at the time. They were certainly one of the masters of pixel art. And let's continue. Okay, so we made it past the atrium. If I'm reading the map correctly, if we continue going up ahead, we'll eventually land into Riddell's room. And yes, hers is the ornate door. Let's see if we find her. Wow, that is one creaky door. Lots of doors in my house tend to creak these days more than the rest of the year, and I think it's because of thermal expansion. It's very annoying. Actually, they don't only creak, but they also just like stick, which is even worse. Okay, here we go. We found ourselves in a tidy, welcoming room. The knickknacks and curios dotted around the place seemed to be well loved. The stately desk and the cozy-looking bed nearby, meanwhile, suggested the room's occupant was no stranger to luxury. Though the room was richly furnished, somehow it still felt awfully lonely. "Is someone there?" came the voice of a young woman. We shrank into the shadows. And there she is. The woman appeared from deeper within the room. She was lightly made up and had a gentle, unthreatening air about her. It was Lynx's daughter. "Strange, I'm sure I hurt someone." I was at a loss as to what to do for a moment, but before I'd had time to do much more than hold my breath, Kid had already darted over. Wow, we just decided to pop in on her like that. And thrust her knife out, stopping the blade only at a hair's breadth from the woman's neck. Imagine that, what an innocent way to approach somebody. "Where's the frozen flame? Answer me!" Her voice came out in a harsh growl. I rushed in to hold Kid back before she hurt the poor woman. "Kid, do we really need to have to do it this way?" "Shut your trap, Serge." Riddell couldn't help but giggle as she watched us bickering. "What are you laughing at?" Kid shot Riddell a harsh look. "It's just, you don't seem like thieves at all." "You want me to cut you, girl?" I'd be surprised if that knife could cut anything. For a moment I felt faint, imagining Riddell on the floor, covered in blood. But then, clang, Kit had thrown her knife to the floor, and I saw that it was only a letter opener. I thought she had a real knife. "Huh, I didn't think you'd noticed. Whatever, I'm not here to mess around killing the likes of you anyway." "I have no desire for bloodshed either," in a voice that was almost a whisper. "I am not your enemy. In fact, I want to help you." There wasn't a hint of hesitation or deception in her voice. "Let me guess, you're trapped in the manor too." Riddell only lowered her eyes sadly in response to Kid's question. "The frozen flame should have never been allowed to fall into Lynx's hand." I think here we go. Riddell spoke quietly, but deep emotion clearly underpinned her words. Let me lower the output here just a bit. This particular game tends to have some pretty loud tunes. Okay, I think that might be a bit better. Actually, let's leave it at -4 dB. Okay. The flame was once the property of an ancient kingdom to the north, who kept it for generations. It was said to have the uncanny power to guide people and change history itself. After the kingdom fell, the flame changed hands countless times, until eventually it came into my father's possessions. That was before I was born. Sometime later, Lynx became aware of the flame's true value and approached my father under the false pretenses of friendship. That's unfortunate. False friendship, as they say. That's the worst thing you can do to somebody. And welcome to the stream, In I Go. How are you doing this fine evening? Reading for pleasure can be the same as reading for wisdom. I believe so. If you find pleasure in wisdom, right? They can be the same. Not a soul suspected what his true intentions were. And then, on that horrible day, he destroyed everything. He killed everything. Then yes. Well, that's good to know. Have you been reading anything as of late? Very interested to hear if you have a candidate for something that you read as something that you read for wisdom. Alright. Riddell shook her head, then buried her face in her hands. I don't care about the frozen flame. I don't care about that stupid accursed stone. It means nothing to me. It was just to take it away from Lynx and smash it to pieces right in front of him. Oh, actually this was Magil talking. Or maybe it wasn't. And only we can make that happen. Riddell looked up with a surprise as Magil spoke. No one else in the world can seize that jewel from Lynx. Riddell stared, speechlessly. And then in a low voice she whispered, "What can I do to help you?" Let's see, that music doesn't seem creepy right now. Yeah, I don't think it's supposed to be setting creepy down. I think they put this particular background music whenever they're trying to do exposition or like do some lore. Favorite book of all time has to be The Way of the Superior Man. But since then, I've been reading a lot more than I would in my high school days. I never heard of The Way of the Superior Man. What is it about? Okay. There's a survivor of the Acacia dragons in the dungeon who we want to help. And if we're to help him, we need your help, said Magil, taking a step forward. What? That man is a traitor. It's because of him, that father, that Zoranda. Please, it's the only way. Riddell turned her back to us and hung her head low. The Chamber of Death. There might be something to bring him back to his senses there. After all, it was there that he chose to abandon his pride, his life. The Chamber of Death sounds fun. What is it? Asked Kid. A place of torture, a place of pain and suffering, a place designed by Lynx to crush the spirit and the body both. She shivered involuntarily as if a chill wind had blown through the room. Let's see, it's my personal Bible. Even feminists would say, whoa, not bad. Am I supposed to assume that it is less than feminist tome? She told us that the room was cursed, that the blood and tears shed there were transformed by its evil, warped into an all-consuming envy of the living. It is a place that feeds on fear and suffering. Pfft, it'll take more than a creepy story to scare off a master thief like me. No, you mustn't rush in there blindly. You will need to take the Einlancer with you. It is a sacred sword said to have been forged by an ancient sage and sister blade to the crimson, cursed Masamune. And so, if anybody's ever played Chrono Cross, of course the Einlancer is also said to be the sister sword of the Masamune, where one of them is holy, the other one is evil. Interestingly enough, the Masamune being the evil one. Let's see. Yeah, you could say that. I think it holds a healthy balance. It's a book before its time, and it's elaborate. Well, that's cool. Balance, I feel, is generally the key to things like that. I think there's very few books that I can say necessarily I vibe with completely. I would say the one that came closest to that for me was The Fountainhead, but of course Ayn Rand is not necessarily in the up and up these days. The timeless blessings of the Einlancer will surely keep you safe from the Chamber of Death's wickedness. It used to be such a sight to see it in the hands of Zoranda. It danced like the wind, shone like the stars, and struck like lightning. Lost again in memories of fonder times, Riddell once more bowed her head. Forgive me, I have little more to tell you. You've told us more than enough. We'll take our leave now, said Magil, turning and making for the door. I wish I had the strength to change things like you do, whispered Riddell, biting her lip. Kith hesitated for a moment, seemingly deep in thought. It ain't about strength, it's about having a purpose, something to fight for. I will be praying for you. Kit shot Riddell a look over her shoulder. Great, maybe you can cross your fingers too. Wow, that is a harsh one. We left the room. Today's topic, though, I need some juxtaposition perspective. It's a heavy topic, in my opinion, and it's about my mom. Today, something happened that triggered me so hard. Sure. I'm happy to hear. That is one fine boozeberry. Alright, and so we're back out into the hallway. So you go ahead and save here so that I don't have to repeat that entire scene. And so I think we need to go to the torture chamber, which is all the way past all the way past the terrace and past the clock room. But I think in order to go into the chamber of death, we actually need to procure the Iron Lancer from the clock tower, if I remember specifically from my last playthrough. It's gonna be a long way to go. I don't want to go to Lynx's room. I know that there's an extra scene there, but I think we can actually just skip it. Let's go to the atrium. And so I think we need to go back upstairs. Yeah, I think that makes sense. And we up the way we go. And so I think we need to head past the terrace and into the clock tower. I think we're lucky thus far that we're not encountering any random encounters. I believe Surge was in pretty bad shape last we left him. And we need to keep following the corridor, of course. Oh, here we go. Here we go. A person-shaped bottle. Is this supposed to be a genie? Okay, so it's a wraith of some sort, and I think we need to leave it to Magil. Let's try and slip past by. I like how you could easily just like try to distract the ghost and you can just get past it. If only all ghosts work that way. Okay, so now we're in goo. Okay, this is no good. What is going? Great, I wasn't even able to make out what I chose. My bad, I got a call. I'm back. Hey, take your time. I'll be here. More and more hazy. I think I need to be pulled back into reality. Washerwoman. Washing. I'm just dying here, aren't I? This is ridiculous. He's asking me about things in my life, and I don't know how he wants me to answer. Also, all the answers kind of sound a bit goofy. wonder how things are back home. What would a washerwoman wish for? What is a washerwoman? Words of power filled my mind with an almost physical force. Okay, so the cold hail is finally blasted away. Okay, and was that it? Did I just perish? Serge, oi Serge, you still with us, mate? Someone was slapping me around the face, someone who seemed to be enjoying it immensely. Maybe it's not meant to be. I didn't say anything bad. Oh, I think you simply got the overly long message thing. I think Streamlabs has a limit on very long paragraphs. I should probably do something about that. You're good. I think it's just about how long the text is. Sorry about that, Inigo. Kid, stop it, dang you. I leapt to my feet, wide awake again in an instant. Mag, did you really have to use me like that? When dealing with foes who attack the mind, it is simplest to lure them in with bait, then use their intended prey's consciousness as a conduit in order to make an assault from the astral plane. Alright, let's keep moving. Alright, let's keep moving. Kid gave the order to continue, seemingly completely oblivious to my brush with death. Whew. I'd taken a few knocks, but it was alright. A scrape or two wouldn't stop me. Maybe you ain't such a drongo after all. Just goes to show, any old weirdo can make something of themselves if they put their mind to it. Kid's eyes glinted with mischief. See, for as much as I like the fact that I overcame the battle, I felt like I had one too many wrong responses there, and so my HP probably took a dive. You're probably right. Yeah, again, apologies. I think it's just the expectation that if you're in a Twitch chat that lots of people are writing a lot of things, and so they don't necessarily have it so that any one individual can write a very long paragraph. Alright, so we're back out in the corridor. And this is the clock tower. I feel like I should probably save here. The problem is that I also feel like I've got very little HP left. Let me go ahead and save in this file right here. And leave the 323 as a fallback. Let's go inside. In we go. The door wasn't locked. I'll be back. My message was somewhat heartfelt and I gotta feel it again. Yeah, sorry that we lost that one, Inigo. Do what you need to do. Okay, the room was completely silent, and there was no sign of life. There it is, our ticket to not getting turned into mincemeat. The ancient sword was right where Kid had left it. After pulling it out from the pile of junk, she ran over to where it lay. Looking down at the sword, Nagel muttered, "Two ancient blades, the sacred Einlancer, and the cursed Masamune." Once again, it's the first time you read this, it's kind of funny because obviously from Chrono Trigger, everyone remembers that the Masamune was the blade of evil's bane. That is the sword, the only sword that could take down Magus in that game, and it was Frog's main weapon. Spoilers for Chrono Trigger, which is like a 30-year-old game at this point. Let's see. Thanks for getting online, though, Ailes. Made my night better by seeing you were online. It was looking shady tonight. Well, I'm glad I brought some glimmer of light into your evening. Um, Apologies that I can't do much more than play silly games and drink beers and make a comment or two. What are you on about, Mag? You know something about this Master Mune? That's funny because Master Mune is actually what the Masa Mune becomes in Chrono Cross. Magil said nothing. Well, it means something to. It seems to mean something to ya. It does. Uh-huh, something to do with old friends that I don't know about? Not exactly. An enemy then? Not exactly. You're being weird, Mag. Well, whatever. Oi, numbnuts, grab this thing for me, will ya? I was still standing by the doorway when Kid called over to me. Who, me? No, not you. Yeah, you. Or are you gonna make me lug that bloody thing around the place? I'm just a scrawny little girl, ain't I? Call yourself a gentleman? There's no way to answer this properly. I'm gonna just say a scrawny little. In whose dark dreams was Kid only a scrawny little girl, I wondered. Suddenly, my thoughts were interrupted by a spinning kick to the chops. She's got some wrestling moves, I see. My body flipped over in the air as sparks flew behind my eyes. This is no good considering my HP is quite low. What the hell was that for? Kid only humphed and looked away. Magil also turned away. I was thoroughly left out in the cold. Pick up the damn sword, Surge. We ain't got all night. Egad, she was a nightmare. Sometimes I wonder why you even bother Sometimes I wonder why you even bother coming along on these little jaunts. Dazed, I stumbled to my feet and sheepishly picked up the sword. But what were we even supposed to do with this tarnished old relic? Whoa, I nearly fell over, that thing was heavy. Good boy. Right, off to the Chamber of Death. Eyes on the prize, lads. Dragging the sword behind me with one hand and clutching my throbbing head with the other, I followed Kid out the room towards a place where it sounded like certain doom awaited. Okay, so back out into the hallway. Let's go all the way to the end of this particular this hallway into the torture room. And so the door to the left should be the treasure vault. We're gonna continue going. And now we're going upstairs. Really, I've never seen such narrow staircases before, except for the one time that I was traveling in Europe and I went up a church spire. It's got that creepy kind of feeling. Okay, so let's say right here. Okay, so let's go inside. And hopefully with the Iron Lancer we will be safe. In previous games we've gone in here and just died. In we go. It was a small cylindrical room that appeared to be inside of one of the stone towers. It was completely deserted and there were no windows. What's this supposed to be? Something about this place gives me the creeps. Still standing in the doorway, Kit seemed suddenly taken aback. Bearing in mind what Riddell had told us the room was called, it definitely wasn't somewhere we wanted to linger. What were we even looking for, though? What could the old man have left in this room that would help us bring him back to reality? The flagstones were covered in dozens of narrow scratches, and in places there were thick black stains. Something in the stains spoke of a horror that no amount of scrubbing would ever wash away, a malice and sadness beyond imagining. There's something written here. Crouching in front of a wall, Magel was inspecting some brownish markings that looked like more of the same stains. Someone's carved letters into the wall and scrambled them using blood magic? Kid had gone over to take a look. Since when does she know about the magic, reading magic? Looks pretty old, hard to read too. Some of it's been worn away. Let's see. I cannot hold out much longer. My only hope now is to leave the Acacian Signet in this room. The Acacian Signet? And here we go. Suddenly the door slammed shut. We jumped to our feet with a start. From above us we heard an unsettling creaking sound. The walls and floor began to tremble. What the hell's going on? Kid's eyes darted around the room, desperately trying to find out what was happening. The creaking sound from above continued, and the ceiling moved ominously closer. Up there! And here we go. It's a giant spiny. Ew. The scariest Mode 7 has ever been. Don't look now, but I reckon we're about to find out why they call this the Chamber of Death. We have to stop it. If we don't deal with the trap, we'll never find what we're looking for. The ceiling sank lower and lower. We ducked our heads, desperately trying to avoid the blades that jutted out from the bottom. Kid looked to me and screamed, "The sword! Use the Einlanzer!" What? How do you use a sword? Let's plunge it into the ground. There! I drove the sword into the floor with all my might. A shock ran through the room. Beams of light scattered from the blade, covering the floor and walls, and then racing upward. The ceiling gave an almighty judder, then stopped. We made it. I sank to the floor helplessly, my heart racing. Hey, what's that? Kid was pointing at part of the wall. It was where we'd seen the message written in blood. Guess we found what we were looking for. Part of the wall had collapsed, revealing a cavity behind what had looked like a piece of solid stone. Inside, I could see something glinting faintly in the darkness. Kid reached in with her fingertips, carefully extracting whatever was from within. It was a slender ring with a delicately engraved design that looked like overlapping ferns. The ring was adorned with several small rubies in a pattern that resembled a bunch of grapes. The crest of Acacia. This must be an Acacian signet. Kid put the ring on her middle finger, where it sat uneasily. It didn't seem to be her size. The rubies gave off an eerie glint. Sure, it's just making noise in the corner. The rubies gave off an eerie glint. Right, let's not spend any more time in here than we have to. We've managed to foil the trap and retrieve the Acacian signet. I left the Einlanzer where it stood, and we exited the room. Let's get out of here. So we're going back downstairs. Obviously, now that we have the Acacian signet, what we really need to do is go back to the old man. So we need to go past the terrace and downstairs all the way to the manor's dungeon. So from one torture chamber to a dungeon, it's probably one of the longest distances that you have to travel through the night. And let's continue. Let's continue. And here's where we go down the stairs. A sort of plaza. You know, every time I see the word plaza, I am reminded of the time when I was a kid that I visited a plaza, or whatever you might call a plaza. And I specifically remember it was an alley in one of the cities. Well, I want to say in the center of the capital where I grew up, and it was like an Italian, I want to say an Italian neighborhood, and they had a lot of pizzerias there. And so every time I see the word plaza, I think of pizza. That's not healthy for anybody. So let's go towards the atrium. Boy, what I would do for some good pizza right about now. And see, that's the color of pepperoni right there. Speaking of which, I used to follow this Instagram account back in the day, where they specifically had something called Little Peps. And it was specifically about showing pizzas with pepperonis, where the pepperonis would actually cup, as opposed to just being flat. I think there's a very specific way of cooking pizza where they cup in that way. And the nice thing about that particular cooking technique is the fact that because of that cupping, while during the cooking of the pizza, the oil from the pepperoni will actually cup and stay inside the pepperoni, and so every time you taste it, it's quite flavorful. It's also very unhealthy, but you know what? If you're eating pepperoni pizza, what? I don't think you're thinking about health, really. Okay, so this is a fight, isn't it? So a monster. Ugh. It's a blue one this time. Let's escape. Kid is always so much braver than myself. Why isn't Magil saving the day already? Okay, so she's trapped by the tail. Wow, okay. Talk about being a snake cornered into a room. Okay, come on, guys. It is gross. Something was racing toward me. And rats, perhaps? Oh, great. A plague of rodents. Can we just set fire on them? What? A squirrel? Is this still a fight? Okay. Maybe you need jumping in the water or something like that. Oh, we're still with the tongue choking here. Nice. So that's all it took, huh? Ugh, I can still feel it. I don't know, that sounds pretty traumatic. I don't know that you can call that escaping unscathed. For those of us still just joining us, we're still enjoying a blueberry boozeberry, a wheat ale. You know, I'm beginning to remember why these fruited wheat ales are not really my go-to. I feel like while the first taste is actually quite refreshing and new and interesting, as you continue drinking it, I feel like the sourish taste of the fruit kind of just lingers around. And like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of blueberries. I think I like blackberries just a bit more. Yeah, and so I was just randomly trying to think what my favorite berry is. Maybe raspberries? Alright. Once again, I'm kind of dying, which every time I see this message, it means that I'm low in health. Clearly, escaping was not the right choice there. So we have to go to the dungeon. And here we are. It is at this point that we are supposed to meet the old man. Hopefully he gives us some secret. And then we can face off with Lynx. At which point something should be different from the original ending. Maybe. Who knows? And we're nearing the hour here, folks. I really want to actually finish this particular ending and get on with the next one. Having retrieved the acacia signet, we returned to the old man's cell. As soon as we got there, Magill took a step forward and grabbed onto the bars. They creaked and groaned as he heaved at them, gritting his teeth as he summoned every ounce of his might. Slowly, they bowed apart. Geez, Magill sure is like, what do you call it? When did he become a bodybuilder? Not only does he does magic, but he can also just like bend metal bars. He truly is a man that has everything. He stepped into the cell through the gap, and Kid and I followed. The old man was exactly as we had left him, staring into space and muttering meaningless words. Kid walked over to him and crouched down. She grabbed him by the collar and yelled at him, "Wakey, wakey, Granddad!" That is no way to treat an old man. "We've got a few questions for you. Here, get a knife of this. Ring any bells? Kid waved the acacia signet in his face, shaking him roughly all the while. The old man's head rolled as he limply allowed himself to be manhandled. I'm going to try and stop her. This is not good for anybody. I tried to get between Kid and the old man. She glared at me. "You're in the way, Serge. We're here for answers, remember?" Yeah, we shouldn't be threatening old men who are barely sane. But if you really want to help him, you can't chicken out now. But look at him. There's no helping him anymore, surely. This all ended for him long ago. I would not be so certain. Wait, this is Magill. This is not over. It still means something. He has simply decided to pretend to not see it. Yeah, but he's... Sorry, that's... Yeah, but he's... It's not over, you say? Struck by the man's sudden interruption, we all turned to him. It's not over, you say? A faint glimmer of light had returned to his once vacant eyes. That's right. None of this is over until we make Lynx pay. His eyes began to cloud once more. So my former allies have finally come for me. I'm to blame.
It is because of my indiscretion that the frozen flame was stolen, and that all of the Acacian dragoons. Only I remain here in the manor.
That's a hard voice to lean into. Let me try and find a different old man voice here.
But now all is well, for you have returned. Oh, Melgin, Zoranda, where have you been all this time? Did you all return to Lake Stoic?
Never mind all that, Granddad. Where's the frozen flame? Give us a clue, anything. Come on, out with it. I couldn't decide if Kit sounded more annoyed or more desperate.
The frozen flame?
The old man looked momentarily confused, and then a wan smile crossed his face.
My word, Lady Riddell, it has been far too long since last I had the pleasure. Why, you need only turn the third candlestick from the left as you enter the main hall. That will open the underground vault, as you know.
Kid wrapped her arms around the old man and held him tight. And then, in a trembling voice, she whispered, I probably should have written that down. I wish that I could how to say, rewind that. Maybe I can watch my own stream. I don't know. And then in a trembling voice she whispered, I'm sorry, I promise we'll get it back.
The
man recoiled in horror and then began to sob once more.
I am to blame. It is all my fault. Forgive me. Forgive me.
Look, if you want to get out of here, now's your chance. But it was no use. He was too busy cowering and wailing to hear me. We're done here, Serge. We can't help him. And there's things we need to be doing. Thank you, I whispered to the old man before following Kid and Magil out of the dungeon. And that was not really see, what I originally thought the first time I played through this was that was Riddell's dad, but it must have been somebody that either served Riddell's dad, and maybe he was like a very important figure, like the knight captain or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. I think in Chrono Cross you later assume that is actually Radius, excuse me, which was one of the 4 devas of the Acacia Dragoons. So we need to go back to the main hall. The room with the organ. Where is ballroom? Let's go back to the atrium. And let's go back upstairs. And let's keep moving all up until we find the stairs leading up. Up the stairs we go. And I think what we're looking for is the ballroom. And let's go ahead and save here. And so we go inside. I forget what she was supposed to turn. Maybe I can find it in this walkthrough. Uh, let me see. If I can try and Google this. That is not. Just a second here, folks. Just trying to find my placement here. Okay, how about Radical Dreamers walkthrough? Oh, this is definitely riveting streaming. You watching me Google a walkthrough for Radical Dreamers. And of course, our favorite guide, Game Facts. Push against the candlestick. Alright, let's see what happens. Maybe there's not that many candlesticks. Maybe. And so this is the organ room. Dozens of candles provided a dim, flickering light, sending the corners of the room dancing in and out of shadow. The great hall was filled with a heavy silence, a silence unbroken save for the ticking of a large clock that slowly counted the passage of time, as if waiting for something. Several portraits glared down at us with cold eyes. We moved through the feeble glow of the candles. Oh, she already knew. Awesome. Third candlestick from the left, whispered Kid. 1, 2, 3. There. She reached out towards it. I held my breath as I watched. Say your prayers, Lynx. We're coming for you. Kid turned the candlestick. The room trembled with a sudden rhythmic rumbling sound, as if a massive gear was turning. What's that? For a moment I felt a strange sensation, as if I was floating. Do you feel that? I started to stagger. The entire room seems to be moving downward, came the reply from Magil. I couldn't quite believe it, but I also couldn't deny the feeling of downward motion. The main hall was sinking into the earth. And then another rumble. The room's descent rapidly accelerated. Cold sweat dripped from my back. My heart filled with a mixture of fear and anticipation. What was waiting for us down there? The frozen flame? Our prize at the end of this little adventure. But what was it really? Should have asked before setting off on the adventure search. Would it live up to our expectations? I tightened my fists, which were slick with sweat. That's exactly how I'm feeling right now. What were Kid and Magil thinking? The room remained veiled in silence. As if response to my thoughts, a quiet voice came from next to me. Sometimes it was Kid. I looked over to see her standing stiffly, staring forward with her hands clenched into fists. Sometimes I feel like I'm stuck in a losing battle, a fight I'll never win, no matter what I do. It was a side of her that I'd never witnessed before. Even from this angle, I could see fear and doubt flickering across her face. I felt a tender sting in my heart. We'll win. There's nothing to worry about. We'll win in the end. I promise. Drongo. She gave a gentle smile. Can't promise anything in this world, Serge. There's no guarantees. But thanks anyway. She grinned again, seeming a little embarrassed, then looked me straight in the eye. And then I had the strangest sensation. This wasn't Kid, or not the only kid anyway. I was overwhelmed by the inexplicable oddness of the idea. She noticed immediately, of course, and our little moment was over. The kid I knew was back in the room. Trying to catch flies, mate? Sorry, it's just that for a moment there, it felt like you were someone else. What are you on about? Kid gave me a confused look, tilting her head. It must be because we're drawing near to the frozen flame. Yeah, that's exactly what that is. Magel's voice, as soft as ever, slipped unbidden from the shadows. What the heck are you two on about? Kid turned towards him with another puzzled frown. There is another self within you, struggling against the pull of the abyss. But what has she been talking? Some hints there, of course. A crash split the silence, as if we'd collided with something. A spaceship. A loud metallic scraping filled the air. The room rocked and finally came to a halt, so I think we've actually made our descent down. Looks like the end of the line. All change. Beautiful drink. The swelling grandeur of the organ suddenly filled the air. No one had as much as touched it, and yet the keys and the pedals were moving by themselves. The melody it played was both unsettling and sad. Funeral tune, is it? Way to greet your guests. Kid took a long stride forward, then turned to face me and Magil. Come on, let's go. Magil and I gently nodded our assent. Kid grinned, then turned back to the door. I'm coming for you, Lynx. This is the end for you. And with that, she led us from the hall. We continued down a long dark corridor, the walls slick with condensation. Okay, and I think this is where we go. And fortunately, we took our notes here for this one. The air was thick and heavy, as though ripe with the stench of death. We were really getting close to Lynx's hidden vault at last. And was there any turning back now, for any of us? There was something strange about Kid that night. Michael didn't seem to be his usual self either. To begin with, it was vanishingly rare for him to speak so much, let alone show any kind of emotion. I like this idea that Kid and Serge are constantly going on adventures, and Magil is simply just hanging back, being like a strong, silent bodyguard. What happened to make them change like that? Unable to take the silence anymore, I decided to speak. I had to ask the question that had been on my mind all this time. Why do you want the frozen frame so badly? Hey Kid, why do you want the... Yeah. All I got in reply was a cold echo of her footfalls. I should have known. She didn't like to talk about her reasons for doing things. After all, it was a topic that was likely to lead to a discussion of her past. But then, she spoke, though it was almost a whisper. I'm doing it for Sis. Before she died, she told me to find the frozen flame and bury it. Bury it where? Her old mate's grave. Kid looked at her feet as she walked. She wasn't my real sister, but she was good as family to me. When she took me in, I was bloody helpless. Couldn't remember a thing. And I was barely old enough to survive on my own. She didn't go into too much detail about who her mate was. Best I can remember is that I needed to find the grave of a girl. Best I can remember is that I needed to find the grave of a girl who married another mate of hers and died not long after. And of course, we're going into Chrono Trigger lore here. She said that's where the frozen flame should be laid to rest or something like that. To be honest, I wasn't paying much attention at the time. It's not like I could have known what was about to happen. When When she disappeared and I realized she wasn't coming back though, I swore I'd make good on what she asked me to do. I'd nab the frozen flame from that rat bastard Lynx and get my revenge. Kid's eyes almost seemed to glow with heat in the cold night air. I'll make him pay for everything he's done, no matter what it takes, even if it kills me. And then she fell silent. Sorry, kid, I didn't mean to bring up something so painful. There was a pause before she replied. Nah, you're alright. I should have said something sooner, before I roped you into this. Yeah, this seems like a pretty big deal. Why wouldn't you... Why wouldn't you at least explain a little bit? Sorry. Silence reigned supreme as I fumbled around to try and find something to say in reply. But all that filled the darkness of the corridor was the sound of yet more footsteps. Suddenly, Magil stopped in his tracks. Wait. Huh? Kid turned around, puzzled. Just then a powerful light surged across the floor, and a ring-shaped sigil appeared. Here we are. Damn it, a blood circle. Kid and Magil were at least quick enough to try and jump clear. But they weren't quite quick enough. The three of us were trapped in a circle of blinding light. The sigil rotated left and right with us at the center, cutting off all routes of escape. And so this is one of the few times where we have all three characters within sight, and we can see exactly who they are: Surge, Kid, and Magil. Gah, we're trapped. A wall of heat and wind blew up around us, and swirling lines of spirals light assailed us wherever we turned. Don't let the light mesmerize you. Cover your eyes, shouted Magil, raising a hand over his mask. Turn with the light, not against it. There has to be a way out. What? I barely even understand what's going on. Kid's elbow brushed against the wall of light surrounding us, sending sparks flying. Be careful. Merely to touch it is more than enough to harm you. Stay well back. I slowly turned my body to follow the movements of the ring of light, looking for a gap to escape through. Okay, and so I believe this is right 3 times. 3 steps to the right. There, I see it. That's our way through. Found the gap in the wall of light, carefully walked through it. Kid, Magil, this way. We managed to get through the barrier unscathed, but we weren't out of the woods yet. There was still another wall of light, swirling with great wind in front of us. I slowly turned my body to follow the movements of the ring of light, looking for a gap to escape through. And so we left 2 times. I turned left twice, 2 steps to the left. There, I see it. That's our way through. And so we make it. There's one more. And this is all from the conversation with the griffin, if you're wondering. The last is right twice. Nice. Whew, and we made it. Suddenly, my body felt light and I staggered 2 or 3 steps forward. We were back in the deserted passageway we'd been walking down before the blood circle had appeared. The sigil had vanished from the floor, and everything was silent, as if nothing had ever been amiss. And then I looked up. Looks like we finally made it, boys. Kit strolled up to the door with a wicked grin on her face. The true frozen flame awaits. Oh, the true frozen flame awaits. Magil's eyes gave a glint from behind his mask, like glass catching moonlight in the darkness of night. Let's go. Kit reached for the handle. Okay. Rah! She'd taken one look inside the room beyond the door and charged in, shouting at the top of her lungs. Magil and I followed behind her. Okay, and I think this is where we take a quick break, folks. So I'll be back in about 5 minutes. After a quick bio break, we'll have something else on tap and we'll finish this particular ending. So stay tuned. And let's go over here. And welcome back to the Ales and Fails Twitch stream. I'm your host, Alewolf, otherwise known as Ales, Gentleman Streamer, Beer Goggles 21, the excellence of an execution. I just realized I am missing something here. Give me a second, folks. Just a second. No, let's go into... Actually, let me just do this. The smartest thing to do, of course. One of the few instances where Ales will just have to randomly cut his camera, clearly doing something, less than expected. But let's put the camera back on over here. Okay, so as I was saying, we're in the middle of playing Radical Dreamers. We're trying to get the mega weapon ending, and we're right at the finish. We completed a certain task early on, and then we went through the main route. We finally are facing Lynx. So here's hoping that it'll actually be something impressive. As you might recall, during last week's session, what ended up happening is somebody promised us support when we reached the end of the adventure. Here we are trying to see how this differs from the original ending. But before we do that, of course, let's go ahead and talk about what's on tap tonight. This is Grape Ape IPA from Smog City Brewing Company, and so there's a lot of alliteration. There's a p that goes there. Grape Ape IPA. I can't say that I am very fond of the particular artwork here. It's like this mad primate scientist. It a little bit reminds me of the Beast Titan from Attack on Titan. And it is a West Coast IPA. And you might be wondering, Ales, why are you drinking a West Coast IPA? I thought you said you didn't like those. And the reason for that is, you know what, I saw it in the store. It was funky. I've never seen that type of can artwork. And it says like it's a grape IPA, so I'm interested in seeing what it is. It's also just continuing on with the fruit theme that we've established tonight. So it's a West Coast IPA with grapes. And so what is a West Coast IPA? Well, a West Coast IPA is the type of IPA that you see most commonly. It's the conventional IPA. And the idea is that it is a type of ale where you throw in a lot of hops and you boil them along with the rest of the brew. And you boil them to such a degree that all the hops are putting in there is bitterness and bittering agents, which makes the brew quite bitter. And some people like that. I don't care for it. It's not really my thing. But whenever you tweak it a little bit, I'm interested in trying it out. I have grown some resistance, some acceptance of bitterness. And so this is just one case where I love my wines, and this one particularly said it's a beer and wine hybrid. So I was very interested to see what it is. So it's an ale brewed with some grapes. And that's what an IPA is. Let's see what Untapped has to say on the matter. Let's go over here. Let's go to our alternate screen. So, Grape Ape from Smog City Brewing. It's a healthy 7% alcohol by volume. And well, look at that. It has no description. I think the can does have some descriptions though, so let me pretend that this is Untapped. Grape Ape IPA is a sensational wine beer hybrid cooked up by the mad scientists at Smog City Brewing Company. Tropical mango, citrus, and fresh berry burst from the can thanks to the concoction of Cascade, Mosaic, and HBC 586 hops that blend seamlessly with the experimental addition of Muscat Grape Must. Grape Ape IPA will bend your mind and take you on an unexpected flavor trip, combining white wine and hops in this very special elixir. So some description of hops there. Obviously it doesn't have mango or all those things. It's just that those particular hops actually give the beer that particular taste. Let's go back over here and actually make more lines for it. Like I said, I'll be fortunate if this doesn't taste like Pine Sol, which is what a lot of IPAs, conventional IPAs, taste to me. And of course, I splashed everywhere. This looks golden, like a conventional IPA, to be honest with you. I expected some purples in terms of grapes. I do begin to sense that mustiness from grapes themselves. Some very interesting grape fumes coming from here. It's not very strong, it's not overpowering. It is light though, and it is definitely there. It's a pretty clear beer, I want to say. It's definitely not like a hazy IPA. This is straight up a West Coast IPA. Bang an ale beer. And so there is definitely some bitterness there. That's the first thing that hits you. One of the things that I find with West Coast IPAs is just the fact that the bittering agents kind of stay in the back of your mouth as you're drinking them. But yeah, some light grape notes there, and also some mango as well. Actually, you could make the argument that the mango is stronger than the grapes themselves. And of course, the mango comes from those hops. So the mango flavor doesn't necessarily bestow a sweetness, but it does make you forego a little bit of that bitterness. And at the end of the day, it's more like a mango peel rather than a mango flesh. Very light in terms of body composition. I want to say 1.5 out of 5 in terms of that composition. Not too thick, very refreshing, pretty light. And like I said, it's got an interesting mix between aroma and flavor. A battle between both grapes and mango. I like it. This is delicious. If I was going to drink a West Coast IPA, this would probably be it. So, Grape Ape IPA, give it a shot. Let me go ahead and rate this. 2.5 being an average in a 5-point scale. I want to say a solid 3 is probably good. Yeah, 3. 3 is solid. And I don't need your promotions untapped. Land of the Free, level 24. Of course, that's an American beer. How many beers had I drank? Not enough. And with that, let me just go ahead and update my ticker. And there it goes. So, with that, let's go ahead and move back into the action. Hopefully we can finish this ending. And we pull back the volume. Where's my controller? In front of us stood a man with a very odd hairstyle. Tracked you down at last, Lynx. Wow, that's pretty loud. The great treasure we sought stood between us, a faint crimson light pouring off of it. The frozen flame. I almost yelped its name in my excitement. Come on, Lynx. Come on, Serge. Don't be a noob. It would appear to be the jewel, yes. As in response, the crimson glow seemed to intensify. Here you are at last. I had begun to worry that you might never appear. Well, there was never any danger of that. Thanks for hanging out down here with the rock we came to pinch, by the way. Makes things much easier. 2 birds with 1 stone. It's like all my birthdays have come at once. I thought we agreed we were only here for the frozen flame. I thought we agreed we were here only for the frozen flame. Maggle muttered discontentedly. Kid barreled on, regardless, stepping forward and pointing boldly at Lynx. Sorry to have kept you waiting, Lynxy Lynx. But we're here now. I said that as if it was Marky Mark or something. So if you don't mind, we'll be knocking 10 bells out of ya and taking the frozen flame home with us as a little memento. She was clearly very pleased with her little speech. You clearly do not lack self-belief, but I am afraid things may not end as well for you as you had hoped. He was grinning ominously. Okay, what? Initiate Mecha Link's launch protocol. I don't remember that. What the? At Lynx's command, a great hole began to open up in the floor between us. What looked like an enormous lynx rose slowly from beneath. What the hell is that? The massive mechanoid launched into action, smashing into the ceiling with its huge bulk. The entire roof collapsed and a great shower of rubble fell, revealing the full moon above us, hanging in the star-speckled night sky. Whoa, what? No one told me about this bloody thing. The appearance of a robot had wrong-footed us all quite spectacularly. You know what, we're gonna stand and fight. Wait, Magel stopped us. Kid, give me that crystal you've been carrying. Be my guest, I don't reckon it's gonna help much though. And this is the crystal that we got from that gladiatorial arena event that we had earlier. Magel took the stone from her hands, then spoke to it. Ganju, we need your walking weapon. The answer was swift and coming. Your wish is my command. A blinding light flew, or maybe I forget what the voice I used for Ganju was. Forth from the crystal, and for a moment everything was drowned in white. When her vision cleared, a vast bulk stood between us and Mecha Lynx. What the bloody heck is that thing? Kid couldn't believe her eyes. Well, you see, there's this illusionist, Ganju. He lives in the crystal and, well... wait, I don't even know who was talking there. The specifics can wait. The creature is an ally. That is all you need to know for now. The thing is on our side. Nice. This should make things interesting. We'd better give it a name, huh? How about Paradeus? Yeah, that's super cool. Paradeus? Okay then. Kid quickly sized up the two massive beings. What is happening here? So one of them... So that's Lynx on the right. And this is that Cyclops looking thing that Kid had turned into last we encountered the Ganju creature. So it's Paradeus versus Mecha Lynx. Lynx had grabbed a frozen flame and clambered inside his mechanical namesake. Testing, is this thing on? Wahahaha, you expect to defeat me with that misbegotten wretch? Mecha Lynx will crush you. Mecha Lynx will crush you all. Dream on, mate. Your metal mate there'll be good for nothing but a scrap heap by the time Paradise is done with you. Two combatants faced off against one another, the moonlight glinting off their vast forms. Prepare to die, Paradise. I have no idea for Paradise. Not likely. Eat monster fist, you mecha moron. I don't even know if it's Paradeus or Ganju that's talking. The giants crashed together, and the battle had begun. Okay, so now we're controlling. Paradeus swung its leg like a club, smashing into Mecha Lynx with an earth-shaking force. Mecha Lynx barely seemed to have the felt the blow. You know, if I was a sports commentator, I probably wouldn't make a lot of money. Wahaha! Witness the immovable might of Mechalinx. Damn it, how is that thing still standing? Come on, Paradeus, don't fail us now. Sure, Power Punch. Paradeus responded instantly to my command and swung at the mech with an enormous right hook. Punch connected perfectly, resulting in a huge explosion. But the Cyclops had hurt his hand. Let's evade. Watch out, Paradeus. He heard me just in time and dodged a blow by a hair's breadth. But these rocket punches were just as dangerous on the return journey, and this one was making a beeline for Paradeus from behind. So it's like a fist that flies out in like a rocket. Paradeus, behind you! But I was too late this time. It slammed with full force into Paradeus' belly. This Mechalinx ain't messing around. Let's just kick it. Giant launched a low kick with his left leg. Great idea, Paradeus. That'll knock that thing off its feet. Mechalinx hadn't even flinched. And Paradeus' leg was now bent at a sickening angle. Strength. This thing's tough as hell. Kid sounded almost impressed. Power punch. Paradeus let loose with its left. Now I have hurt its left hand too. Should we just not punch anyone? A row of missiles emerged from within. No, Paradeus, get out of the way! They raced off, one after the other, and flew straight towards the three of us. Look out! Bloody hell! Ah! We were done for. Huh? Paradeus had stepped in front of us to take the missiles, full in the chest. How heroic. There were no way that hadn't done some serious damage. Poor creature screamed in agony. Damn you, Lynx. The fight wasn't over. Paradeus beam. What is that, like Hyper Beam from Pokemon? Strength! This Mechalinx is a serious problem. What are we gonna do, kid? What are you asking me for? You're the one telling Paradeus what to do. But, no, you're right. Maybe if I gave the heavily injured Paradeus the order to end all orders. Unleash the Paradeus beam. Yes, the beam. The beam that didn't exist. What the heck, Surge? Shut up, you're not helping. While all this was going on, Mechalinx had launched into its next maneuver. This time, we really were done for. It seems I haven't... I don't even know who's talking. Magel stepped forward. Hear me, Paradeus. Mechalinx had initiated an attack. It was only a matter of moments now. It's time. Unleash Raging Apocalypse Inferno of extremely certain death. Raging Apocalyptic Inferno of extremely certain death. A huge fireball was emerging from Paradeus' mouth. Wow. It flew towards Mechalinx. How does Magel even know how to control robots? The resulting explosion blew Mechalinx to smithereens. Yes! Clearly that was better than any Street Fighter 6 match. Not bad, Mag. We had defeated the mighty Mechalinx. Another Aelwolf classic. Thanks so much, Paradeus. Yeah, nice one, big guy. That was quite the showdown. We had nothing but gratitude for our enormous friend. Right, on your way, mate. We'll take it from here. although Kid was as quick to forget the social niceties as ever. There was a blinding white flash, and Paradeus was gone. Right, now to find us a jewel. She began rooting through the wreckage of Mechalinks. Do you think the frozen flame will still be in one piece? Oh, do you think the frozen flame will still be in one piece? I asked Maggle. Undoubtedly, it is no ordinary gemstone. Kid was running around all over the place, rooting through piles of debris. Bingo! It seems she'd found it. We went over to her, and she was standing by the remains of the driver's seat. Lying amongst the wreckage was Lynx himself, or what little remained after he'd been frazzled. Imagine that, you just destroyed a guy. Yup, here we go. And with that, she plugged the jewel, crimson light still pouring out of it, from somewhere in the corpse's vicinity. The frozen flame was ours at last. It was beautiful, so much so that it didn't seem possible that it could be of this world. Would you mind awfully if I had a look? The voice came up from the crystal. I fear your prison may pale in comparison. So saying, Maggle held the crystal out towards the frozen flame. Truly, it is wondrous to have been able to encounter such splendor. Is a blessing indeed. And welcome to the stream, Moop Moop. How are you doing this fine evening? It is also quite late, so thank you for your time. I was right to throw my lot in with your little band. The voice seemed to be quavering with wonder. And on that note, the crystal shattered. All that remained in Maggle's hand were fragments and dust. Well, that seemed just like quite the loss after all this time. But what the heck you think you're doing, Mag? How are we supposed to call old Paradeus next time we need a hand, eh? Why would you destroy the crystal of something that helped you out like that? You have like this mech. It's like breaking the dragon dagger from, the Green Ranger. And that thing was definitely worth a bunch too. Honestly, I can't take you anywhere. All is as it should be. It was a familiar voice, but this time it wasn't coming from the remains of the crystal. Once the spirit inhabiting it moves onto a new jewel, the old one dies. That is as it is meant to be. So I guess the spirit jumped from the crystal into the frozen flame. I'm guessing that's what it's suggesting. Oh, it was coming from the frozen flame. What do you mean? When we find ourselves a new jewel to inhabit, we stone dwellers take on the attributes of our new homes. Thus do we travel the world from place to place, from gem to gem, in search of even greater power. Like someone once said, Gem, gem, gem is my name. And there is no greater power than that of this stone. It is more wondrous than I had ever even dared to dream. Perhaps you might join me here. I don't know if there's enough space in there. It's not like a Pokeball, is it? Regardless, I now have the power to aid you by calling on even greater beings than the Cyclops. That's cool. Kid squinted as she tried to peer inside the jewel. So now you're inside this thing? Does that mean it'll be weaker because you're using up all its magic power? Thankfully, my dear, it does not. Good, because we can't have you going anywhere now you're inside it. Break the frozen flame, mate, and I'll find to break your head. And mark me words. Very well. And with that, the conversation was over. Kit tucked the stone into her pocket and stood to leave. Right. Frozen Flame begged, Lynx burned to a crisp. I'd say that's mission accomplished, wouldn't you? I think that was Surge, actually. Indeed. Only one of them says Indeed. Indeed.com in case you're looking for a job. What does that even mean? What now? An excellent question. What now, kid? What do you think? You pair of drongos. There are heaps of jewels still out there, aren't there? Just sitting there waiting for us to come and swipe them. Wouldn't do for us to keep them waiting now, would it? Come on, boys, our thieving days are only just beginning. I can't believe this devolved into a mecha fight. And here we are. And so ends another tale. Perhaps, one day, I'll see the strange and terrible Paradeos again. One day. Somewhere at another time, in another world. Perhaps none of us will even realize it. But that's a story for another day. For now, I must put down my pen. Now this part always gets to me. I closed my grandfather's diary. And then, from downstairs, I heard my mother's calling. Did you hear me? Your friend's here. Nimble footsteps charged up the stairs. Door flew open. In tumbled a young girl. A girl who seemed somehow familiar. Hey Serge, it's a beautiful day for adventuring. I found a rundown old manor off in the woods to the north. You wanna go exploring? Come on, put the book down and let's get out of here. And so it's I still don't know what to make of it. Is it that you're reading a story? Is it that you're reading like Serge's old tales? But then you meet this girl who calls you to adventure, and it's like, was that you or was that your ancestor? And why is this girl, why does she sound so much like Kid herself? I don't know. That's not a mystery for me to solve. I beat the game. I beat ending number 5 of the game. Oh, I think ending number 6 out of 7 of the game. So I think we've got 2 more to go. Yeah, it's kind of and it just gives you some pause to think. Now, in terms of an ending, I want to say that at the very least, this one, in the sense that it actually follows a lot of the main story threads, it seems like a little bit more compelling. But just the idea that you throw in like this mech from another dimension that is called forth by a tiny creature that lives in crystals, it makes it very, very kind of far off. It also seems kind of weird that the only 2 things that differ from this particular story path is very, very early in the beginning and very late in the game. Everything else is exactly the same from the main storyline. So that's it's a little I don't know, maybe a little bit jarring. Like, for the longest time, if you told me that this led me straight to the like original ending of the game, I would have said, oh, I see, I must have missed something. Because there was no glue in the middle to suggest to me that something different was happening. But you know what? Maybe the game was playing a long con or something like that. So let's go ahead and finish this ending and we can move on to the next one. I think I'll do ending number 2 next, which is a little bit shorter. I still don't know that we'll actually finish it, but it'll certainly be... I think it'll be nice to leave the final ending to the final time that I play this. What is the next ending called? It's also something that I've done before. How many times have I done this? Let's see which one we're missing here. It's also kind of nice to see just the outside. Fiend. Alright, so how many? I think we are at 5 out of 7, like I said before. Okay, so we need ending number 3 and ending number 7. And we did do ending number 3 once before, it just didn't register. So let's try to do that before the final ending. And let's see, ending number 3 is actually Kid and the Sunflower. Let's do this. Where are we in the evening? We might be actually getting close to our finish. Let's see, bro, I'm on Twitter and... What's a new fire on Twitter? And I go... People now have an NPC kink on TikTok. Hey, you know what? Some of those NPCs can be a little bit... Oh, let's continue. Can certainly be, how to say, fetching in some respects, right? There's a kink for just about anything, I think. Okay, so I think we simply continue here. And search is good. Search is fine. So in order to go for this ending, this one is called Kid and the Sunflower. We start off by not going to sleep. The old lady's tip-off was right in the money. The counter spell on the barrier around the outer walls could have done a real number on us. Kid's plain unadorned braid flicked back and forth across her shoulders as she walked. Hypnotizing. We picked our way through the elaborate lattice of Manor's magic shields, moving in closer and closer to Lord Lynx's stronghold. There were 3 of us, Kid, Magill, and me. I watched as Kid's braid flicked back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and I started feeling very sleepy indeed. But I had to try and stay awake. What was wrong with me? I'm nearly falling asleep. I needed to be more careful. Kid would have crucified me for napping on the job. I gave my head a shake to try to keep the wooziness at bay. What a strange situation this was to find myself in, being here, now, in this place of all places. It all began not too long after I met Kid. I guess it must have been 3 years already since I first met Kid. Back then, I was just a wandering musician, traveling wherever my feet would take me, and wherever a few tunes would pay for a warm bed. I can save here, actually. There we go. We got the 5 reindeer noses. Let's see. Girls get sent stickers, yes, and they perform a phrase for sent sticker, and it's a thing now. They get paid for these stickers, but man, we just that bored, aren't we as humans? You know, that's an interesting way to put things, I guess. I feel like, you know, we do live in America, and let me not propose a grandiose a thesis here, but it is the fact that we have less concerns than a lot of people in the world, and I feel like trends and like things that people latch onto for a time, they're kind of like little problems that we set for ourselves, because a lot of the times we don't have the bigger, more overarching problems. So there is some truth to that. But I do say that, you know what, if it doesn't hurt anyone, then so be it. Do your thing. Everyone has a hobby of sorts, and of course, maybe I don't want to sound preachy. I think people should enjoy themselves if they have the ability to do so. But I do come from a place where we did have a few more pressing matters on our hands. Imagine that. It was in the Outlands, in a town called Regoria, where we first ran across one another, and since then, she dragged me along on a whole bunch of adventures, and misadventures too. Ah, kid, she was a thief, and not just any thief, just a few months shy of 17 and already renowned as one of the realm's greatest. What's more, she was achingly beautiful, stylish, a joy to be around, and a damn hand at campsite cooking, or so she liked to claim. The truth was a little different. Those bandits with hearts of gold you've heard about in stories, the ones who'd steal from the rich to give to the poor, yeah, that wasn't kid style. It does hurt psychologically. Yeah. There's some grief to be had for where the masses go sometimes, isn't there? Who said this? Live and let live. I know that has been transmogrified from a different line, but I do like it sometimes. Sometimes I like to think that every single little thing that I do is constructive, that it's not following some sort of a trend, but sometimes I do. She was short-tempered, prone to lying, bossy, and obsessed with money, and rarely did she care to listen to a single word anyone said to her. But she wasn't all bad. Probably. Maybe. Sometimes. She had her moments, anyway. I glanced over my shoulders to see a shadow hovering behind us, blending into the darkness like smoke. Magil. Also known as Magil the Shade, he was Kit's partner, but even after 3 years, I still knew hardly anything about him. All I knew was that he was around 30 years old, and not much of a talker, but he was one heck of a mage. I heard that he and Kit had started working together way before I met her. He always covered up the top half of his face with a mask, and I'd never seen what he looked like underneath. He was a man so mysterious that it sometimes seemed like he was an interloper from another world. It wasn't like Kid was exactly big on details about her past, but Magil, he might as well not have had one. And Kid didn't even seem to know much about her partner in crime either. What kind of a man he was, what kind of life he'd lived before? Nothing. You might ask how exactly I wound up being a part of this merry band. Well, it's complicated. I didn't know that you could actually make a decision here. Let's go with sometimes life doesn't always turn out the way you think it will. Huh. I chuckled wryly as I thought back over how Kid and I had met. You got a joke you want to share with us? Oh no, it's nothing. I was just thinking about how strange life can be. You're starting to sound like an old man, Serge. Hey, what's wrong with that? We all gotta start sounding like that sometime. Kid grinned impishly over her shoulder at me and pressed on. Hang about, what's that? Kid was staring her eyes to look at something in the trees outright. There's something shining in there. I tried to see what she was talking about, but all I could make out were trees, overgrowth, and darkness. In other words, nothing out of the ordinary, considering that was all we'd seen so far. And so this is important here because we actually have to check out what she spots in the woods. Are you sure? I don't see anything. Yeah, I'm sure. It was bright, whatever it was. Kid's right eye narrowed like a cat's. Let's check it out. Magel stood next to Kid and followed her gaze. We're deep in Lord Lynx's territory. I trust you're well aware that one false step could very well be our last. Not saying a word in reply, Kid continued to look deeply into the trees of the forest. Do you sense something? Oh, you sense something. His gaze returned to her face. She briefly looked to him, then back at the forest. Very well. If another path awaits us, so be it. Perhaps we'll find something interesting. Without waiting for Magel to finish, Kid darted into the thick overgrowth, as if he'd let go of a sting that was holding her back. Wait up, Kid, I made to run after her. Be on your guard, Serge. There's something wicked in the air tonight. I gave him a quick nod before plunging headlong onto the darkness. So we haven't even entered the mansion at this point. Much to my surprise, we found it almost immediately. A golden beetle perched on a large tree. Let's see. There it is, cried Kid, as she immediately started shimmying up the tree after it. It did have something of a golden sheen to it, I suppose, but I was still impressed that she'd managed to notice it from so far away. She had a keen eye, sure enough, at least when it came to things she wanted to see. And so, long story short, my mom has emotionally damaged me and physically too. Left a scar as well as yesterday. I was sick, and she made me ginger tea, and I was surprised. Okay. Sorry to hear that you felt ill, in I go. Hopefully it's nothing too significant. Yeah. I looked up to see how Kid was getting on. Wow, she's fast, I commented aloud. She'd already made it high up into the branches and was about to grab the beetle. Ack. But the moment she reached out her hand, it spread its wings and flew away. Get back here. She reached out further to try to catch it, but lost her balance and fell. There was no need to panic. Kid could handle a fall like that. I should have chosen that. She spun her body nimbly in midair and landed gracefully on her feet like a cat. They ran straight off after the beetle, ignoring me and Magel completely. Get back here, you. You're my ticket to riches. We ran into the forest, chasing after what may or may not have been the legendary golden beetle. We hadn't seen it again since it vanished. How was Kid tracking it? Two hours of solid reading, and that's where we land. Let's see. That she did me a solid because anytime I'm down, it's like she's trying to help, but at the same time, messed me over. Like it's a sick joke and she gets a kick out of it. I mean, my analysis on people are usually spot on. Well, I mean, I suppose that's one read on the situation, and of course you know your mother best. So what does that little voice tell me? My mom is one of the biggest haters, and she's masking it. Well, you know, I'm not about to suggest that you're reading the situation incorrectly. Like I said, you've known your mother the longest, and very, very well likely you might be spot on onto what you're thinking. There is something to be said about you know, I'm not, obviously I'm not a mother. I don't think the way mothers do. But I do have a mother, and I will say for the most times it is very challenging to talk to her. She always tried her best with us, and you know what? A lot of the times she got it wrong. To this day, she will never admit to any of it. But just the fact that she tries to connect is, I don't know that she's trying to prove it to anybody. It is simply something that she wants to do, and I am not going to fault her for it. And that's not to say anything about your current situation, of course. All I'm going to say is that there is something that at the very least I think is inherent with the status of being a mother, and even if you're the most selfish person in the world, and just the fact that you gave birth to somebody and raised them does at times evoke certain desires to make right on that promise of raising somebody. Those are my thoughts on it, of course. You probably have written a lot of things here, so here you are to prove me wrong, I guess. I'm just tired of having the same discussion with having emotional intelligence to support me, love and understand me, and it's like just a waste of breath. Like, it's so bad I've gotten so calm about the situation. Like, it's just another day and it sucks. I don't want to accept that reality. And like I said, no, I don't think anybody's pushing you to, accept the situation or like forgive if that's not within you. But I wouldn't say that these dispositions are false either. Not completely false anyways. Worst thing else is that whenever I'm doing great for myself, like something in her takes and sabotages me. Yeah, that does sound does sound very defeating, of course, and I'm not going to disagree with the notion that there are people out there that see us while we're running high and want to put us down. That's something that does happen, absolutely. You're right. But it is that idea of analyzing somebody's intent and trying to understand those intents for what it is. And again, I'm not going to. I absolutely have no idea what your mother's intentions are. I would say if it is something that is truly toxic to you, then you can ignore it and let it be. But if you perceive any hint of truth to it, I just wouldn't dismiss it like that. And I'm sorry that it causes you pain and it causes confusion. But I don't know that any strong human relationships are not with their confusion and their chaos. Okay. Had I asked her, she probably would have just said she was following her nose for treasure. Something changes. I'm gonna save right here. Let's see, nobody's perfect. Let's see. I told her twice now that it is not doing a favor that she is at fault. Place the big thing. It's doing the favor and not doing the right way. That is a problem. Nobody's perfect, but my demands are very slight in my opinion. I will simply say, or I will simply suggest the idea that there are times when generations past us have very specific ways of doing things, and they only know how to do things in very specific ways, and a lot of the times they are flawed. Let me just posit the example here that the way that both my parents actually tried for the longest time to compel me to follow certain norms or certain principles or not do certain things is to shame me, is to poke fun at me. And that wasn't just me, but that was also my siblings. And that is how we learned things, and to this day they will never admit that that was a mistake, nor will they recognize that that's what they were doing. So I guess that's just to say that they didn't know better, and I don't know that I can fault them for that. stopped in her tracks. Had she found it? Did you find it? Nah, same color, but this ain't our beetle. I peered over her shoulder as I caught up. I hate that, gaslighting 101. I've gone through the same thing. Yeah, I think it's something very common. Like I said in the previous generation, and you know, I for the better part of my youth, I was what you call a good kid, but my siblings certainly didn't have it that way, and to this day, I feel very, very sorry for that. It was a sunflower. The tall, slender bloom stood alone in what looked like a little patch of sunlight. No one would have taken a big, bright, cheerful flower like that for anything but a sunflower. But what was it doing looking so lively in the dead of night? At least you found a loved one who can understand and appreciate you when you can't pick yourself up on some days. Yeah, you could say that. At least I did find somebody that I can lean on to. That is true. And I wish I could more strongly advocate that idea, but not only do I need support as much as I do on certain days, but my SO is also just as let's just say that sometimes they cannot be called on for that particular function because we are all complex beings. But what was it doing looking so lively in the dead of night? Jacked up. It's a sunflower, but what was it doing here? Struth. I knew you were thick, but I didn't think you were that thick. Can't you feel that? Something's wrong here. Very wrong. I tried my hardest to sense what she was talking about. Whatever the case, and I go, like I said, I'm sorry that the situation is making you feel that way. And I'm not about to suggest that you need to, make assumptions where you don't need to make assumptions. All I'm here to say is that there's a lot of loss in communication when it comes through different generations, and sometimes it's a little difficult to understand why people like our parents do things the way that they do things. But that doesn't mean that it's all bad, even if they do it incorrectly. Not always, anyways. Well, you feel anything? Yeah. My forehead hurts. I'm not bloody surprised. Who told you screwing your eyebrows in a knot like that would help with anything? Kid thumped me on the head. Gee, thanks, kid. How was I supposed to know how to sense stuff? Nobody ever taught me. Yeah, just take my words with a huge grain of salt from some random person on the internet who likes to give opinions on matters that they shouldn't. Kid ignored me and turned to the highly conspicuous sunflower that had caught her attention. Ah! I screamed in horror at the sight that greeted me. What is this? I know I completed this ending at some point before. I don't remember this. Droopy eyes, not unlike those of a drunkard, long purple eyelashes, a large aquiline nose, thick pink lips. Aquiline, if I recall correctly from grammar class, is hooked. The face of a heavily made-up man had materialized in the center of the sunflower's petal. Let's call to Kid. Bah ha ha ha. Kid practically fell over laughing at the sight of it. Not exactly how a normal person would react. And for sorry there, I did the Mandark laughter. Let's call to Maggle. I have seen something like this before. What was it called? I'm perturbed by the strange sight before us. Maggle calmly sifted through his memories of magical flora and fauna. He seemed to know what this thing was. It was classic Maggle. Not only was he a skilled fighter, but he also had a mind like an encyclopedia. Sadly, looking things up in it always took him forever. Okay, and my voice is starting to go. See, come to find out when fix my bed. Not good, but the pillows and headboard I've adjusted my whole life turns out I've been sleeping in a horrible position and that messed up my spine and neck. But I'm doing better. Physical therapy. Yeah, good for you. Aesthetically looks good, not practical. It's like you could say she wasn't trying to sabotage but ended up doing. She's one of my worst foes. I suspect some sort of demon lives in her. She's angel when she's calm. Well, I will say, once again, not to compare my situation with yours, but yeah, we definitely did not sleep with anything that is remotely conducive towards proper sleeping. We had very old pillows, again, very old world stuff, and it is only honestly within the last 2 years that I started sleeping with something proper, because I didn't know, because nobody taught me, and I certainly didn't expect my parents, my mother, to know any better. And you know, for a moment I don't assume that she was trying to sabotage me or anything like that. I'll also say that one of the things that I fault my parents for, maybe my mother, who was closer to us, was just the idea that once we came to the States, we didn't get a lot of just like junk food in our bodies, and we certainly became hefty, and you know, that's as young people, that's certainly not healthy. As growing young people, that's not healthy, and a lot of that I carry with me, and that is something that I fight every day. It's only in recent times that I've gotten where I need to be, but it was years, decades that I had to work for to undo all that. But again, it's not the sort of thing that I can blame her for. It's she simply was acting to the top of her intelligence. Where are we at? Nobody taught us the right way. Thank you for sharing with me, though, that you can relate. You know, the day that if we ever have to pass on this information to the next generation, and maybe we've talked about this before, I like to think that, you know, we'll pass on a lot of the good, a lot of the things that we learned, and a lot of the things that we noticed that our parents did incorrectly. But I cannot say that there's information that we will not be able to pass, because we simply didn't have that aspect of our lives on us. And who knows? Maybe those that come after us will also grow to dislike us. Maybe. Well, and what have we here? A magnificent evening for a stroll, wouldn't you say, fair maiden? The sunflower turned to Kid and spoke. Its speech was unsettling, as its looks. This reminds me of Sanji from One Piece. Chill ran down my spine. I ain't your fur maiden, you creepy old leck, spat Kid. Forgive me, child, forgive me. I was simply struck by the sight of your deliciously slender figure slinking through the trees and felt compelled to greet you. Gross, you can keep your thoughts about me figure to yourself, perv. Of course, my dear. Of course. It was clear from his tone that he had no intention of complying. And it was equally clear that Kid was having none of it. Shoulders trembling with irritation, her dagger flashed as she whipped it from her belt. You know what happens to sunflowers who stick their stalks out and start shooting their mouths off like dirty old men? They get pruned. It all seemed a bit excessive. I mean, it wasn't like it could have followed us if we ignored it and walked off. But Kid had made up her mind. The dagger she'd been brandishing flashed from left to right in an instant. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I'm trying. Like I said, it's not apples to apples or anything like that, but maybe trying to put some context there. Speaking of coming to the U.S. and eating junk food, someone said that the foods has so many chemicals when there's soaps with oats, vitamins, and other healthy stuff. LOL. What a crazy comparison. Well, in I go. There comes that creeping scientist inside me that suggests that actually all foods are chemicals. Everything is made of atoms and molecules. And so when somebody condemns something for having too many chemicals, I say, well, what exactly is it made of? You can tell me it's made of natural ingredients, but those also boil down to chemicals. Not to make a controversial statement here or anything like that, but we do love our dihydrogen monoxide. Jeez, what was that? And then now it's gone. True on a technicality, the best of technicalities, I like to say. The sunflower let loose a horrible screech, like 1,000 cats all scratching on glass at once. Not that I like to talk about myself, but people fault me for two things. One of them is being overly sensitive and emotional, and the other one is about being overly skeptical and scientific. So it goes. Goodness me, this will outdo it all. Fair and slender maiden, wanton violence, ill becomes you. What? Kid had definitely cut the flower's head off, and sure enough, there it lay on the ground. But a new flower had sprung up in its place and was chattering on as if nothing had happened. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Hardly the behavior of a lady. Once again, Kid lashed out with her dagger, and once again, I was brought to my knees by that awful screech. This is really outrageous to think that such a delicate flower could behave so boorishly. What is happening here? Okay, so this is the many times that we cut down the sunflower. But a new one appeared in its place, and another one, as soon as she'd sliced that one down. Stop, Kid, this screeching, it's gonna drive me mad. I knew she wouldn't take it well, but decisions. Let's ask Magill today. There's no point in pretending I could outmuscle Kid. It's gonna have to counter Magill. He was standing stock still like a statue, his arms folded in concentration. Not even the shrieking of the sunflower could shake him out of whatever train of thought he was lost in. It seemed almost as if he couldn't even hear it. His mask might have been facing Kid and the sunflower, but the eyes beneath it were focused on nothing at all. It was clear that all his attention was turned inward, and he was utterly lost in his thoughts. Have you finished, my slender saucepot? You'll only tire yourself out swinging out that thing around like a lunatic. Kid's shoulders heaved as she panted. Exhausted, she flung the dagger to the ground in frustration. Now I remember. That's a mandrake monster. Whatever you do, you must not try to cut it down. And under no circumstances whatsoever should you try to pull it from the ground. Great. That's exactly what we've been doing. See, you think when you want someone, you have to leave all your old BS and dispose of it? Or put it away? Because that's what separates the boys from the men. Like, look for a better future, or am I being extra about it? Well, that depends what you mean by your old BS. If you're talking about who you are and what you want, then under no circumstances should you do that. If you're talking about your old hang-ups or biases, then maybe there's some room there to think, do I need to carry this with me if I really want to move forward? Sorry once again that all I ever give you are gray answers. BS and bad habits. Well, what is a bad habit really? Is it drinking? Because I'm gonna carry that bad habit to the grave. Magiel had finally remembered, and just like always, it was far too late. Kid gave an almighty roar as she grabbed at the sunflower stalk and began ripping it from the earth. The corner of its mouth turned upwards in an unsettling grin. But things that wouldn't fit a good relationship. Haha, no drinking. Just a bad thought process. I think if you can recognize something as a habit that you see negative, or it counters that which you're trying to accomplish, or makes things worse for you, then yes, leave it behind. There's, no matter who you are, you take a lot of baggage with you into a interaction, a relationship with someone. And if you can recognize something as bad from before you actually go into that type of transaction, then it's only going to get heavier when you bring it. So maybe not. And then the ground around its roots began to heave and crack. Okay, good. But like I said, really make a concerted effort to consider if what you're taking from yourself is really all that bad. There was a crashing all around us as the trees collapsed, and before I realized it, Kid had vanished through a crevice in the launching earth. Debris and fallen trees blocked in my view as the world closed in around me. But at the last moment, I felt a tug in my arm, and I was plucked from the jaws of disaster. Magiel? He was soaring through the air with me under his arms. Pull yourself together, we need to get out of here. But what about Kid? One thing at a time. Magiel landed at the edge of a dome-like cloud of dust, and saw that had erupted. I stood there and called Kid. I screamed her name into the dust cloud. I wanted to rush in to help her, but there was no way I'd be able to see anything in there. I'd only be putting myself in danger. Say guys, are the providers. I want to provide a good solid man, that is myself, healthy in many ways. To be able to pick someone up, not monetarily, but with emotions and intelligent wisdom. I think that's a fair goal. I think that in today's modern worlds, we try to provide for those we love in many different ways. But one way that I think is sometimes lacking is that emotional pickup, and that's because a lot of the times people are not ready to dive necessarily or communicate in that fashion from the outset. And I'm not gonna say that it works every time. Sometimes it's just read as too much or extra. But I'm not gonna abandon that way of thinking. I think if I can provide, then it's there and it's good and it's solid and it's something that can be valued. I waited for the dust to settle, holding back the nerves as best I could. What is this, like some sort of weird Elden Ring boss? Once the cloud had begun to dissipate, I saw a single massive silhouette. What was it? Whatever it was, it hadn't been there a few moments earlier. And then the air cleared, and then the moonlight cut through the darkness, revealing... What is this thing? This is hideous. Kid! I could only scream her name at what I saw. I should really be wrapping up here. It's way past my Cinderella time here. Has Street Fighter been treating you, by the way? Honestly, since that last session, I haven't touched the game. Um, and to be perfectly honest with you, I wanted to play the game, but because I am using the block I was using to play Street Fighter to play Monster Hunter, I just haven't devoted any time into. It's a very strange thing for me to say that I have such limited times to play games, but trust me, I have very limited times to play games, and most of those times are live on the air on Twitch. It was a colossal monster, 7 or 8 times my size. A hulking beast covered in exposed muscle and ivy, with hands and feet that resembled the sharp pincers of a crustacean. Around its neck was a golden scarf of sunflower petals, but instead of a head, it had... Oh, I mean, I'll be definitely coming back to Street Fighter 6. It's a very good game. I mean, I'm not willing to let it go. It's just going to be some time. At this rate, if I'm calculating things correctly, it'll probably be 3 more weeks of Monster Hunter, then 4 more weeks of King of Fighters, which I really want to go back into, and then I'll go back to Street Fighter. And that doesn't make any sense for somebody that wants to do something, but it makes sense in my very unusual way. Around it? Okay. Mind where you were looking? Where you're looking, Serge? What? In the heat of the moment, I had no idea what Magil was getting at. And then it finally made sense of what I was seeing. The monster had no head. Instead, there was a sunflower, from which the top half of Kid's body was protruding. And she was as good as naked. Wow. Well, not entirely naked. Her chest was covered with 2 small sunflowers. Of course. Magil broke me free from the horror. If we don't help her fast, the creature created by her rage will consume her. She will die. You seem chained up if you really can't play outside of stream. Yeah. But these are the chains that we choose. She'll die? I felt my heart twist inside me. I asked Magil how we could help her. What should we do? How do we save her? Like too many people have much time nowadays and they just play way too many video games. Yeah, maybe. I'd love to be able to have that kind of problem. But I guess I have other types of problems. I have other things that I need to do. So I can't. The more I thought about the possibility of Kid dying, the more I panicked. The times that I stream are actually time that I should be sleeping. More or less. Calm down, my saucer-eyed friend. There is a way. Kid is enthralled to her rage, and it is that which binds her to the monster. To free her, we must free her from her anger. And how do we do that? Simple. What is simple? With love. And you know what? I think this is where we call it. Whew, I think I've definitely pushed myself here. I have pushed myself by reading text on a game. Let's see, myself, I play a lot, but to be honest, probably like 2-3 hours a day. I might be on the have like another 3 hours while on my phone. Damn, you need to. Sounds like some Walter White type of... I am the man who knocks. Alright, let's go back to our intermission here. Alright, so that was the Ales and Fails Twitch stream, folks. This was good. I think we made some good progress. I think if we had been just a bit more effective with our going of the story, we might have finished this second ending. But I think very quickly in the next stream we'll actually be able to finish this one and then move on to the final ending. And then after that we will be done with Radical Dreamers. Imagine that. So like I said at the beginning of the stream, I won't be playing Hades tomorrow night, but I will try to play it Friday night. So hopefully stay tuned for that one. On Friday afternoon, I will be going back to the world of Monster Hunter, potentially playing with some viewers. I really hope some viewers want to play with me. I'm a terrible Monster Hunter player, but I enjoy playing with people. Imagine that. I'm a human and I like to socialize sometimes. But yeah, thank you very much everyone for viewing. Thank you everyone for lurking. This was a fun night. This was good, and I think it was very well worthwhile the staying up past my standard time. Hopefully you have a good Thursday up ahead of you. Yeah, and hopefully we see you back again. Thanks for the info. I was gonna tune in tomorrow. Yeah. If you're ever wondering what I'm doing, my Twitter's always good. My Instagram's always good. I started posting my schedule on Threads. Not that anybody follows it, but it's there as well. 2 games on Friday. Yeah, at least that'll be the attempt. Here's I'm hoping that it's like an 80% assurance to that. But yeah, all that being said, stay thirsty, Alpac. We'll see you again.